Welcome to a very special Cyber Month episode of my ArundelBiz podcast. I'm Grayson Orfe.
Hi, and I'm Rosa Cruz. I'm Vice President of Communications at the Anne Arundel Economic Development Corporation. And we're really excited today to have Chris Barber. He is the owner, no, actually the chief geek of Cheaper Than a Geek, which is a terrific business in Crofton. And I am really excited to talk to him because I might have some cyber issues I want to talk to you about because I got some messages in my Yahoo inbox and I need you to decipher them. So hopefully we can you can give me some good advice after that. But anyway, welcome Chris, and tell us how you got started.
Thank you folks for having me on today. How I got started, it was crazy. I was looking for a new career. This is over 20 years ago. And I thought, computers might be the wave of the future. So I just got a crystal ball like that, apparently. So I was like, well, where do I start? How do I get involved in computers? And I was like, I need to build a computer. If I built one, then I would kind of have a better understanding of that process. And perhaps that would give me some direction on where to go.
Right.
So I, hop on my dial-up modem, figured out what to buy. And nowadays there's websites that figure it out for you. But back then you had to figure out, does this motherboard go with that processor that goes with that hard drive? Like you had to figure it all out. So I get all the stuff, and, I get it mailed to me, put it all together. To my shock and amazement, it worked. But about 2 weeks later, it died. So, and I couldn't figure it out. Windows wouldn't load. I was totally scratching my head. So I went to a local computer repair store and had like the worst customer service experience of my life. They clowned me for bringing the power cable in. Took them a couple of weeks to get to the issue. They overcharged me. Turns out it was just a loose cable for the hard drive, which shouldn't have been a big deal.
Right.
For me, that was like my aha moment. I realized, holy smokes, this is an industry that's like famous for terrible customer service.
Yeah.
What if I started an IT company that like took customer service seriously? So that's actually what got me started. And fast forward to today, I think the industry's better, but it's still not known for good customer service. So our big claim to fame is we've won more awards for our customer service than all of the other IT companies in the state of Maryland. So
wow,
they're getting it done. It's because it's about the customer.
Yeah. See, and that's awesome because, coming from like the IT side, a lot of times you'll get a lot of techs who they know what they know, but they don't know how to relate it to people. And there's a value that is, just that goes beyond anything when you can just relate it to people. Because mind you, you can help anybody out with their computer and talk way up here. And at the end of the day, it's almost like going to a mechanic. You go to the mechanic and the mechanic's sitting there and you're like, my car's going thump, thump, thump. And they're like, okay, well, it could be your rocker arm or it could be your transmission and your and you're just sitting there like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I just need it fixed. Please don't laugh at me because I'm saying the car is going thump, thump, thump. Like it's the greatest thing in the world when you can have somebody who can provide that service. Now, the thing about it is that your business is based in Crofton, correct?
You got it.
So what made you pick Crofton?
I'd love to tell you I did all this like high-end research about demographics and median incomes and all of that stuff, but the truth of the matter is I just like Crofton. It's a nice place to live. I live in Crofton now. I have an office that's in Crofton, but also it's central to DC, Baltimore, and Annapolis, so we can kind of get in and get out. I like to say it's close to everything without being too close. So
Got you.
it's our home base.
Got you.
Right. And I'm sure you love the Wegmans nearby and the nice Target nearby and Watch Apple. I'm sure that didn't figure into your quality of life considerations, did it?
It was icing on the cake.
Right. Right. Well, you know what's interesting? Like, so you just mentioned that really bad customer service experience that you had was sort of really the basis for your business, right? Mm-hmm. And so why don't you talk a little bit about sort of what your company culture is like and how you get your team to buy into that customer service is really the central point of your service to your customers?
That's a great question. So it's, as you might expect, it's kind of a myriad of things. One of which is during the interview process, I relayed that is why we got started. So that's not something we think is important. That's like driving everything that we do. And that's how you get good customer service across. It's, one of the things we do is generally we answer the phone with a live human being within 18 seconds. That's good customer service, but that doesn't stand on its own. Like that part doesn't mean that you're going to have a great experience. That's just one piece of it. So if the mantra kind of drives the good customer service experience, then you have a different animal. So in the interview process, I'm sniffing to make sure that you get that, you understand that, you are able to rise to that, which most people cannot. In my industry, and Grace, you touched on this earlier, there's a tendency to speak nerd. Mm-hmm. And, we have to speak nerd, but our clients aren't nerds. They're people. So we're like interpreters. We need to see nerd and speak English. So that's how we do it. And I've designed a lot of our interview questions around that simple concept of, can they in fact say something nerdy in English? And I think every industry, especially right now, is quick to say, hey, finding good people is a difficult process, and that's totally true. But when you do what I do, which is you need competent nerds that speak English, now you're in unicorn territory, and it's really hard to find them. So we hire typically for every hire we make, we went through at least 100 applications, if not more. So it's exclusive because it's so hard. And even like when I do the initial phone call, the candidate doesn't always realize it, but they're in a mini interview even at that point, because I want to hear, can you speak English? And if you want to get all nerdy and you want to talk, wow, the DNS filter and blah blah blah, well, you're probably a great IT person, but you're not good for interacting with the public. Most IT companies will tell you they have certain employees that do a great job that they will never ever let touch the telephone, because they will it's just not their thing, whereas if you require that, I feel like it just kind of makes the whole process easier. The other piece is it could be a stressful job. So, we're not fielding phone calls like, hey, our email server's down. If you guys can do it the next week or so, that would be special. They're like, there's a big project coming today and there's no email. Right. And they're not necessarily mad at you, but they're mad, so you kind of gotta, I look at it as we're kind of talking the gun out of everybody's mouth, it's like, all right, well, we got you, don't worry about it. Let's find out what's going on. When did this start? Blah, blah, blah. And in order to do that, I think you have to have a sense of humor. Because otherwise it gets to be a grind of fielding nothing but phone calls like that. So that's another big piece of the puzzle too, is you have to be able to laugh it off. We have Nerf guns scattered throughout the building that, are deployed at a moment's notice, usually when you're coming out of the bathroom and you forgot that there's Nerf guns in the office, something along those lines. So things like that kind of keep everybody,
Right. Yeah. Well, that's really
the best work atmosphere.
Right. And you just gave me an idea for Nerf guns. if I take away nothing else from this interview, Chris, is that I need to consider Nerf guns in my marketing office, right?
You have to. So I don't normally publicize this, but when we hire somebody on their first day on the job, I usually do the bulk of the initial training. And then I take the new person out to lunch. And then I take the new person to Target and let them pick out their Nerf gun. Why are we going to Target? No, hang on, I'll show you.
That's really cool. That's a really cool kind of tradition to have, I think. Did you all lose me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we lost you for a second, but it's all good. It's all good.
Cool. So we talked about, okay, once you've onboarded the sort of the right candidate from the hundreds of resumes that you've poured through just to find the right person who's going to fit your customer service centric corporate culture. And then you've made sure that they have read the Emily Post Book of Etiquette and all that good stuff. How do you, on the other side, then, what do you all do to make sure that your team is sort of up to speed in, you know, the latest tech? Cybersecurity, holy crow, like I started sort of serving these businesses in the cybersecurity industry about 5 years ago. And honestly, it feels like it was only a year ago because everything has just gone lightning fast in a matter of years. So how do you make sure that your team is up to date with the latest technology knowledge that they have to know?
It's challenging. You know, I've never been an in-classroom kind of person. So I always joke that if somebody had warned me about how much continuing education would be required in this profession, I would have picked a different job. Like, I'm not a studious classroom kind of guy, but in this case, you have to be, or you're irrelevant, you know?
Yeah.
So there's no choice. It's a sink or swim type situation. And when I see some of my peers that don't embrace changing, I'm like, ooh, what are you doing? Like, you don't have a choice. This isn't like, yeah, you might make a little bit more money. It's like you do this or you're going to go out of business. It's that simple. So part of it is hiring, and believe it or not, this is not all IT people, but hiring folks that are technology enthusiasts helps, because there's just that natural curiosity there.
Yeah.
So that's always a good thing. But I feel like many things, you know, in the job space, you got to lead by example.
Yeah.
So that kind of forces me to kind of be the conduit of trying to stay on top of all this stuff, which, goodness gracious, there's so much to stay on top of. But that's kind of where it comes from. And then, you know, I'm pushing that down and trying to be encouraging in the process. And it's working. You know, it's just it's ever evolving. And there's a required read that full disclosure, I don't make my employees read this. If they don't want to read it, I make them listen to me explain the book to them. But this is a good book for everybody. My mom gave it to me when I was a kid, but it's Who Moved My Cheese?
Yeah.
You know, it's a great testimony to change is constant. It's happening. Yep. You know, you can be dead set against it, but it's coming. So you might as well embrace it.
Right.
Now the thing about it is that, and I've read that book, and that book is awesome. It's highly recommended to anybody who owns a business, especially in IT. That is a 100% read. The thing about it is now in having your own business, right? And then starting up your IT business and watching it grow and become what it is now. What obstacles did you face in starting up the IT company? Because, you know, everybody wants to start a company. It's almost like what Mike Tyson said. Everybody wants to fight until you get punched in the face. Like, you have a plan until you get punched in the face. Then it just all goes out the window. So in starting this company, like, what obstacles did you face in, you know, starting and growing the company?
Oh my goodness, great question. So, and then I had not heard that quote from Tyson, but that's solid. I like that.
But he kind of said it different. No, I'm kidding.
Might have been a little more base in this iteration, but you know, MO is the same, I'm sure. So, you know, I always like to tell people, like most of my buddies are employed, you know, they have day jobs, so they're not self-employed. And sometimes they'll look at my situation and they'll be like, "Hi, you know, I kind of want to start a business." I'm like, whoop. It is not for sissies. It is not for sissies. I am not sitting at home all day, sitting on my couch counting money. That's not how this works at all. It's not that it's not rewarding, because it's very, very rewarding, but it's also hard. It's hard. And we service the small business community. And part of the reason for that is because I just really get excited about small business. We are a small business. That's who we serve. So this affords me the opportunity to kind of play with small businesses all day long. And just the other day, I was at lunch with a small business, and they were complaining about, oh man, their right-hand person had gotten a concussion at work. So they were at home, literally in a dark room, can't read, can't watch TV, can't use their phone. They're just like recovering for like a week. So literally, this person's right-hand person is completely out of the picture, you know, which nobody wants to deal with that.
Right.
I told him, I said, you know, owning a business was easy. Everybody would do it. And he's like, yeah, that's true. You know, so that's, I live and die by that. I mean, you kind of have to, but, you know, there's so much to it. I always like to tell folks that are starting a business, you know, hey, if you ever want to like second opinion on something, I've made some really good decisions and I've made some fairly big mistakes. You know, if I could save you from one or two of the mistakes that I've made, you know, I would be happy to do that, because it's just, you don't know what you don't know. There's just so much to know. You know, chances are, if you're starting a business, you're not coming to the table with a CPA's worth of knowledge and an attorney's worth of knowledge. You know, if you're lucky, you're an expert in your industry, but that's not always a foregone conclusion too. So there's always more to learn. So you definitely never stop learning.
Yep.
You need to take advantage of programs like what you folks have, where you're able to build on that knowledge, you know, because it's just, nobody knows this stuff. And one final thought here is that you got to be different. You know, if you're going to sell the same widget everybody else does at the same price, what's the point? You know, in my case, it's pretty obvious. It's all about the customer experience. That works in some industries and not others. It works very well in my industry, but you have to be different. If you're not different, you know, one more thought, because I just keep having thoughts over here.
Sure.
We were talking about books to read. There's one other book that I'm a huge fan of, and that would be The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. That is a cautionary tale that just because you're good at what you do does not mean that you would be a good business owner in that field. And that book does a really good job of showing where your typical blind spots would be and how to overcome them. So, you know,
can you repeat the name of that for our viewers?
The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber.
Excellent.
It's a neat book because it's written in kind of like a story format, where this woman named Sally has a pie bakery, and she's an excellent pie baker. But like just about everybody, is not born, you know, a business leader. So she struggles, and he does a really good job of showing you where those struggles generally occur, so that you can avoid them in the first place. You know, because that's just it. I mean, most of us starting businesses might be great at that profession, but that does not make you, in my case, an IT business owner. You know, that's not the same thing as being an IT technician. It's very different. So, yeah, you know, I don't read every business book that's out there, because there's a million of them, but Who Moved My Cheese and The E-Myth Revisited will do a long way towards making sure that you're successful.
Wow, that's really good advice. I think you've given us some really good advice for would-be entrepreneurs, but also sort of for business owners and managers sort of in general. I want to turn our conversation a little bit to your advice, since it's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, for those of us who are not in tech, but obviously have to deal with tech every day, meaning our iPads and our iPhones and our Android phones. And look, not a lot of us are terribly savvy about some of the emails that we get, because some of them look real. So what are some advice that you would probably give sort of the general public on how to be more cyber aware or cyber safe?
Absolutely. A lot of times, if it's practical, you need an IT resource or an IT company that you can trust. And they're not all trustworthy, so it kind of starts there. But building on that, we always hear about like ransomware attacks and how devastating they are, and it totally upended the city of Baltimore, for example. If you've got a good data protection plan in place, which usually just means backing it up in a safe, responsible manner, you just hedged all those bets. So when you look at the millions of dollars in the aftermath of Baltimore City, you could trace it all back to they didn't have very good backups, which was totally avoidable. And it's easy to spend a lot of money on IT and cybersecurity, and it's oftentimes a good investment, but not everybody has that budget.
Right.
Just back your data up in a responsible manner. That alleviates a lot of headaches right there. And then, and you kind of touched on this, Rosa, don't click stuff in your email. The ruses are getting so realistic, it's crazy. We tell our customers, if you see an email you're unsure of, let us know about it and we'll investigate it for you. Used to, years ago, we could say, hey, if you get an email that says XYZ, it's a scam, delete it, poof, move on. But it's gotten so sophisticated, there's entire call centers in India that do nothing but trick you into calling them thinking you're calling Microsoft. So now you're calling the bad guy. It's just, there's so many layers to it now. We always like to say, if you get an interaction, not that all scams hinge on this, but if you get an interaction from Microsoft or Apple, because they're worried about you, or dude, they don't care. Microsoft and Apple probably doesn't know who you are. So that should be a red flag right there. Is that it doesn't seem right. But you need
Chris, I also looked at on a suspicious email I got. It was like your McAfee is expiring, and I was like, oh my gosh! And I was like, wait a minute, I don't have McAfee. or they said, somebody got into my Amazon account, which I use often. So what I've learned to do is I don't know if this is right. You could tell me if it is or not. I look at the sender's email address, because some of those email addresses are these weird, it's just long and it's got a lot of, random letters in it. And I'm just thinking Apple wouldn't have those random letters in their,
right.
In their IP address or their address that they're sending the email from. No, so I don't know if that's something that is helpful.
It's definitely a good idea. But like so many things, it's kind of like a piece of the puzzle. So that is a giveaway. So if you see that, be suspicious. And let's just say it was your Amazon account that they're telling you there's a problem with. Well, don't click on anything in the email, but go to your Amazon account independently. Go to Amazon.com and log in and see if there's an issue. It's one way to get around that. But a lot of people don't know this, but when email was invented, nobody in a million years thought that people would be scamming people through email. So the way it's all been designed and layered is actually not with security in mind. So a bad guy who knows what they're doing could actually send you an email from, let's say, Bill Gates, where it says william.gates@microsoft.com. And in that scenario, and it's a little more sophisticated, but everybody can do it. In that scenario, that would fail you because you're like, oh, this is like, it's Bill Gates. It's @Microsoft.com. It must be Bill Gates. So it's a piece of the puzzle, but I wouldn't just hang my hat on it. If you see that, to run the other way. Otherwise, stay suspicious. The emails I've been seeing a lot of lately are saying, hey, there's a problem with your Amazon account or something like that. Call us.
Oh.
Any links, that's not safe.
Right.
Here's our phone number, so you don't have to look it up. And it's not, but it is an 800 number. So you're like, okay, well, and you call that 800 number, you get a real call center in India, like you might expect to get if you call it Amazon, and it's super freaking believable. And these people spend all day long duping Americans, so they're really good at the exchange. They know what to say. And so you just got to don't trust anything you see in the emails, the way I would look at it.
So with that being said, we're starting a segment on the podcast where it's your top 5, right? So with that being said, what are your top 5 don't do's for just your regular run-of-the-mill person? Hey, I don't know how to spell IT. So what are your top 5 don't do's?
Okay, fair enough. So first and foremost, you got to use a real expert. I always like to say anyone that truly understands something well can explain it simply. So that's a good little test. If you ask somebody a question and get this weird high-tech answer back, they don't understand it well enough. So that's your clue on if you're dealing with the right kind of person or not. That was a quote I literally borrowed from Albert Einstein, but it's very true. You know, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. So you want to make sure you're using good people. Or another way to say this is, as far as don't use a bad person. But, don't say you're going to back your data up later. People always say that, and because we do data recovery, we get phone calls every week from people who are like, well, I've been meaning to back my data up and I didn't, and then I got hit with a ransomware attack or my computer blew up or something. So don't put that off. You know, you can buy another computer, you know, but if you're using QuickBooks, you can't recreate 10 years of company data. Right. You know, you could buy a new laptop, but the pictures, you know, the last 5 years of your kids could be gone forever. You know, like you got to back that stuff up. You just can't simply replace it. So that's very important. Let's see. We touched on this. Don't click the links in your email. And I guess I should add, or call the phone numbers there, because they're starting to get pretty sophisticated with that too.
Yeah.
Oh, and the last one I already mentioned too. I get so ahead of myself here. Don't believe that Microsoft or Apple cares enough to have their tech support people call you. They don't. That's not them.
That is really good to know. And it was a humorous take on what I think is a pretty important and actually serious topic. But I have my top 5 question for you, which is a little bit more fun than Grayson's gloom and doom. Don't do this, don't do that question.
Listen, sometimes you got to safeguard yourself. I'm just saying.
True. That is true. Because I almost clicked on that link in the email. So clearly it was meant, all that was meant for me. So in addition to the Target at Wall Chapel, Chris, what are your top 5 things to do or places to visit in Anne Arundel County?
Fair enough. So I love goofing off with my kids. So we like doing the go-kart raceway thing in Crofton. Yep. We just did that 2 days ago. We like goofing off and playing video games at that video game place at Annapolis Mall, which if you haven't been there yet, you got to check it out. It was the craziest thing. I was playing Grand Theft Auto with my son, and he was parallel parking his car in the video game. It's like, what the heck is this guy doing over here?
You know, they don't teach that anymore.
No, isn't that weird? That's also scary.
Kids do not need to learn to parallel park anymore. Meanwhile, when I took my driver's license test at the MVA in Glen Burnie many years ago, not only did I have to learn how to parallel park, but I didn't have a car from my parents that was automatic. I had to use my uncle's Chevette that was manual. So I was literally sweating as I was trying to move into that parallel parking situation.
Oh my goodness. Did you pass on the first try?
Okay, so anyway, what are of the top 5 things to do in Anne Arundel?
Oh my goodness. Well, for what it's worth, my saving grace was there was snow on the ground, so I wasn't as close as I should have been. But the guy was like, "Well, the snow might have obstructed your vision." I was like, "Yeah, that's what happened."
Exactly.
Oh, we like mini golf at Nighthawk. We're all amateur Tiger Woods people at the Barber House. And there is a ton of places to eat in Anne Arundel County, and especially Crofton. So we like going out to eat.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite restaurants? I went for the first time a couple weeks ago down your way in Crofton to Ashling Kitchen.
Yeah.
And that was excellent. So
Yeah.
what are your favorite food places in the area?
There are so many. Let's see. We like Saigon Noodle House on 450. It's a Vietnamese place.
Yep.
Let me think. There's so much at Wall Chapel. We're eating. Oh, my son loves Outback, so it's not unusual for us to pop into the Outback there. Coal Fire is good if you folks have Coal Fire.
Yep.
There's also a really good Thai place at Wall Chapel that's pretty awesome, and we like the typical Chipotle, Kubota. There's a Meza, those kind of places where you like build your own stuff.
Yep.
If you haven't had the Chipotle brisket yet, whoa.
Ooh.
That's new on the menu.
I saw the commercial for that. I was like,
Really good. I'm like, holy moly. And I've been to Texas more than a few times for the brisket, and I was like, geez, how'd they do that? They did a really good job. So,
well, I'm going to order that when Grayson takes me out to lunch later.
Absolutely. And right before the check comes, I'm gonna have to take a phone call. Rosa's gonna hear the car start like, what in the world?
Where's Grayson?
Where's Grayson? I wouldn't do that, Rosa. I promise. I wouldn't do that.
Okay, right. Anyway, Chris, thank you so much for your time today. I had a lot of fun and also got some really great cyber info. So I appreciate that very, very much. And for those of you who are watching, you can check out this interview as well as past interviews of our podcast on all of our social channels. And please do check out our website, ArundelBiz.org. Thank you again, Chris. Thank you, Grayson. And we had a great time, and everyone have a great day. Thank you.